Hi, welcome to episode 2 of From Scribble to Screen, where I'll be talking with Francisco about his work on Hellboy 2. I also saw that you did at least a good, well, it looks like a good amount of work on the Golden Army itself. Uh,
I designed the robot. I mean, with always with the input of
of
Guillermo,
course.
because the way it goes is like you sketch something, Guillermo sees something he likes, but then it pushes to the direction like he thinks is going to work better. So
Yeah.
and then things happen along the way. Like at the beginning, we didn't had that idea of them becoming like eggs and then
Oh,
kind
okay.
of popping out. But as we were doing the design, kind of like uh, kind of one thing led to another one
Yeah.
because we were doing it like round and
So you might as
big and
well,
like
like that mechanical egg and then popping out kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. So at the end, we decided to do that kind of like they're like in a sleeping mode and then they open when they get activated. Uh,
Which I really liked the design for them because they weren't that standard like robotic army intimidating like Terminator thing. You know what I mean? You have the Terminator who's all like stripped down, bare bones, basically just a musket or a an armature, right? And this is
yeah,
like the opposite of that.
yeah, I just like we wanted to leave it more like into kind of fairy tale kind of territory, not in a kind of horror movie or because I think it's that the story of like these machines meant or built to do good but use them wrong.
Yeah, like they were supposed to
So
just protect him, kind of thing, and instead became this like almost like atomic weapon level force,
yeah.
right? Let's see. Were there any of those creatures or anything that you were like specifically like, man, that's the one I really like. Like I like designing him, or that's the one I wanted to see, like really do well, or I don't know.
For me, yeah, for me, I think probably was the robots themselves
Yeah,
because at some point I remember I did the design and then we sent it to these other people. I think Guillermo wanted them to give it a shot in CG,
yeah,
but these guys, I don't think their specialty was CG.
yeah,
So whatever they were doing, I think it was not close to what Guillermo really wanted, or
yeah,
didn't resemble too much to the design that we wanted, or like that we decided.
yeah.
So I remember, like after a few months, it came back to me, and it was like, "Hey, Francisco, fix all these," and then like I remember telling Guillermo like, "What do you mean fix this thing?" Like, yeah, you need to model the final 3D asset for the movie. And like, what? I'm not, I know how to model 3D, but I'm not the modeler.
Yeah,
And then when you work with a VFX house, there are certain ways that the animation supervisor need the model to be built,
yeah,
or like, or the way they think they're going to rig it. So it's not just like model it and that's it.
yeah.
But I was like, kind of like
Jeez
Guillermo
Louise.
is not just like that. It's not that I just model it and that's it. But then it's like come on, don't you you can do it. And
Yeah,
it's like,
no,
oh my
you're just
god.
like, it's fine, you can make it. But you did, I guess. We got it in the
Well,
movie, right?
what I did is that I start modeling like a pretty much like a rough, low resolution
Yeah,
model, just to kind of block the proportions
yeah.
and the volumes,
Get
and
that
then
silhouette from it and everything like that, right?
yeah, so it's kind of like the equivalent when you draw by hand that you sketch first, kind of like the silhouette of the
Yeah,
figure, or like whatever you're going to detail later. So I block the proportions and everything, and Guillermo saw it, he liked it, he approved it, and then we show it to, I think, was double negative, the people doing the visual effects.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
And when they saw it, it's like, oh, this is great. We take it from here.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of like
You
I
weren't like
dodged that
having to do
bullet.
the model all the fingers and put out like
Yeah,
everything
man.
together for that. That would have been
It,
awful.
yeah, it would have been insane.
Like, I was like, yeah, no, don't worry, friends. I got a guy. Like, we're just going like, I got a guy. It's fine. Like, you don't have to do anything. He'll just CG the whole thing. It'll be fine. No, that's a cool sequence. I mean, and that's the thing I think with that movie is if you talk to a lot of people, there are all these like little moments that like, I like that sequence or I like that one.
Big thing that I was tasked to do is that intro of the movie with the puppets.
Yeah.
I Guillermo, as like I was telling you, like we were like so few at pretty much at the end of the movie that Guillermo wanted that sequence, and of course I didn't do the final, but I had to storyboard it.
Yeah.
And then Guillermo asked me to do like an animatic.
Okay.
So because it was pretty much just me at that point, I had to borrow a couple more guys from that they were in the art department, not
Yeah.
necessarily doing what I was doing, but
And just
uh,
sucker him into helping, I guess.
yeah. So I remember one, I give him like a crash course in 3D
Oh,
because
nice.
we were doing
Okay.
the previous in 3D, and the other guy, it was an illustrator that we had. He had to help me to do the storyboards and do composition, in After Effects to put together that animatic thing.
See, and
So
that just confuses me because I'm like, big budget movie, right? All these things, and then you're like last minute, like grabbing what guys you can and going like, just help me finish this shot, or the
it was like
scene even.
it was somewhat like a guerrilla filmmaking kind of thing.
Which is it's cool, but it's also just like I don't know. It just not confuses me, but it's like it's confounding. I guess it is a little confusing. That you'd be put in that situation. When I think about like this, one of my like the more sad sequences is when I believe it's Prince Nawatu. I'm sure I'm butchering his name, but I think that's what it was. When he calls the elemental, the
Oh
green
yeah,
elemental, and and Hellboy has no choice but to beat it. Of course, I mean he's the hero; he's got to beat it. But you're
yeah,
like, you realize like, wait. Maybe he's not on the side of the angels, as they say, right? 100%. And I like the fact that people don't respond. So I like that scene. I like so many
yeah.
scenes in the movie.
That monster was kind of hard to do because Guillermo had like a vague idea what he wanted,
Yeah,
uh,
a
and
giant green monster, I guess, or right?
yeah, he gave me all what he thought and his ideas, but it's like this abstract kind of thought, and then you need to put it in paper, and I remember I was really having a hard time to do it. Like in my mind, I knew what I wanted,
Yeah,
but just because it was like so weird when I was drawing it, it's like no, this is not right. This is not right.
yeah.
So to the point that I took some of the clay that they were using for some of the props and
Okay.
do things, and with the clay I mock up the character.
Yeah. So like an
And
old school maquette, like when they used to do it,
yeah,
like
I
the
did
old. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, the only thing I do, like I did the maquette, and then I took photos and I did a Photoshop on top of the photos.
Oh, very
And
cool. So a
and
lot different than you normally do, right? Like instead
yeah,
of just
yeah.
sketching
Well,
it out.
exactly. Now I do it a lot with ZBrush and and all that. But in that time, I didn't have ZBrush, so I did it with clay, take
Yeah.
photos, Photoshop it, and then Guillermo approved it. He liked it, and we had the little maquette, and we have the the designs in color Photoshop and all that.
That's really, really cool. Yeah, that's not one I would have expected out of that. Like, how often for that movie were there even maquettes done? Like, did they still do it like that style? Because I know now it's a lot of like CG everything,
Yeah,
for our
well,
stuff.
you know what? In this movie, we did a bunch of maquettes.
Yeah,
They were like a really cool ones, and um, because I think when it came out, it was 2008.
yeah,
Um, Even though we already had CG and all that going, we didn't have ZBrush yet,
yeah.
or was starting to come. It wasn't as
Like
solid
ubiquitous, like everybody
as
was
is
there.
now. Yeah. So so at that point, we had the maquettes to show people around what Guillermo wanted to approve.
Yeah.
like more solid concept and not just paper. We they did not use them to scan them
Yeah. Which
and
that's what they do now, right?
y-
Like they, if you do
well,
it at all.
now they just go with the ZBrush because
Oh, okay.
it's easier because whoever is sculpting in ZBrush, they can arrange the model or make the model, make the geometry so it works for animation, and
Hmm.
so it's easier for the pipeline because the
Okay.
sculpture can pass the sculpture straight to the VFX house.
Yeah.
There is not that scanning or pass and clean up and all that. So pretty much someone can take it from ZBrush and work to make it animation ready.
See, I totally understand that, but also I'm kind of like I'm also a little sad. Like we don't have more of the little maquettes anymore. I remember watching old like episode 1 BTS, right? For Star Wars, and Lucas like picking up the object and like looking at it and oh yeah, that'll look cool.
Yeah,
And
well, I know what you're saying, but these
but it's got to be
days
easier, right? It's the new
it's
days,
more
right?
practical just to do the digital than
Yeah.
than the clay. The tooth fairies, yeah, that's a funny story because when I remember when Guillermo described how or what he wanted for the tooth fairies, um, I remember. I mean, this is funny, and probably no one knows about this one, but we I mean, we both come from Mexico and more or less the same years. We're living in Mexico at the same time, and when I was a kid, and probably Guillermo was younger too. I mean, he was. There was this TV ad in Mexico uh, of of it was like a butter or something like that,
Yeah.
where there was like a little cute girl, and then there was like the hands of a guy. It was like an animated,
Okay.
like a
Yeah.
cartoon little girl. And then in live action, there was the hands of a guy putting the margarine or the butter in a slice
Yeah.
of bread, and then the little girl will kind of like and eat it.
Okay.
But it will kind of open the mouth, but like
Yeah.
kind of in a snap moment, like and then eat it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and then when Guillermo described it described it so similar to that ad
Yeah.
that I thought like Guillermo in his mind have that ad,
Okay.
because it was someone like describing that. So I went back to my desk and I drew the tooth fairy kind of like from memory of what.
What the little girl was in your head, right? Your version.
Yeah. Probably the ad is in YouTube.
I'm
So
gonna find it. I'm gonna see if I can find this old ad,
yeah,
and
I'll
we'll
I'll
put it
look for
here
it and
if it's
send you the
here.
link. Yeah, so I draw the fairy, and like an hour later I show it to Guillermo, and Guillermo is like, yeah, that's it, approve it. And that
That's
was pretty much my first design I did in the movie. That
oh really?
Yeah, and it got approved pretty much the same day, like no iteration, no changes, no nothing. It
It
was
was
just
just
like,
right out the gate.
yeah,
That big head with the teeth. That's funny. Actually, to me, like because I remember like like I remember the. I mean, that's a horrifying scene for like plain and simple. Like when they show up and everything's sticky, right?
yeah. And one I think one of the main ideas when I created that character is that, and we know it was a fairy,
Yeah.
but I wanted to give it um, more than an insect. I mean, it has like an insect quality, but
Yeah.
I really liked how those plants, the Venus fly trap, I
Yeah.
think they're called,
Yeah. Yeah.
are, and you know how they have like those teeth that they close,
Yeah.
and I wanted to have some of that language or those shapes into the fairy. So if you notice the legs of the fairy kind of
Look a lot
resemble
like that.
a
Yeah, they
little
do
bit
look.
like that. Yeah.
I didn't catch that until now. I assumed it was just standard like praying mantis type,
It kind of
spike.
looked like that, yeah. But in reality, when I do it in my head, I was thinking about those plants,
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize that at all for those guys.
and I
Um,
wanted to give it almost like a vegetable kind of quality. Even maybe it doesn't translate in the final thing, but at least in my mind when I was designing it, it was kind of like what I had there.
yeah. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff.